First question we typically ask is, hey, what's the condition of the house on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. That brings out a lot. That typically might take like 5 minutes for somebody to answer. They almost never answer it with just giving you like a 3 or 4 or a 10. It's always accompanied with a story, right? If the house is a 10 out of 10, they're telling you all of the work that they did to get it to a 10 out of 10. If it's usually like a 1 or 2 out of 10, they're trying to make it be like, oh, the house isn't really that bad, but then they're kind of describing the house to you, and you can kind of understand why it would be so low. Now, again, whether you're in person or on the phone, if you're in person, you don't have to ask about the condition of the house, but you're obviously going through the house. Why we want to know the condition and asking a question about the condition or looking at the condition is usually one of the most obvious things that people think about whether or not somebody would be more inclined to list versus sell direct cash. Now, one mistake that a lot of people make when they're starting out doing this is they make the assumption that there's really only one thing they need to find out: if the house is in good condition or bad condition. And they think that if the house is in good condition, they should list. They think if it's in bad condition, they should sell to an investor. But there are actually two components. And again, this is the framework that you need to be thinking about when you're talking to a seller or meeting with them. The first is the house. The condition of the house is a big deal. It can drive the type of sale, but there's also the person and their situation. So let me give you like one simple example, and then I'm going to continue on. Let's say that somebody has a 9 out of 10 condition home. Home is beautiful. Home doesn't need a lot of work. But then you find out that the person has to sell in 3 weeks. Okay? You could have gone out there, just looked at the condition or asked them the condition over the phone. They could have shown you pictures. The pictures could have been like 9 out of 10. But in reality, they still need to sell to an investor because they need to sell the house in 3 weeks. Okay? So with that being said, condition is very important, but it's probably 30% or 40% of what you need to know in order to make your diagnosis. Remember, you're a doctor. You're figuring out what they need, okay? What got you thinking about selling? Okay, this is a motivation question. A lot of things come out of this. Like, why are you selling? What got you thinking about selling? Why did you call me? Like, why did somebody refer you over to me? Okay? Like I said, there can be so many different answers to this, but this is ultimately identifying what's the motivation, okay? Is it that you want to, upsize, downsize? Like, there can be so many different reasons, and I don't want to spend too much time on this question because I'm sure that you're all asking this question on your typical listing appointments. Number 3, this is another big one. Do you have a place to go after you sell, and what's your timeline? Okay. Timeline is very, very important when it comes to cash versus retail. Okay. I'll give you another example where time frame played a pivotal role. And again, you have to be ready to listen to the answers, process them, and again, give them what they need. So we met with a seller in an area outside of Boston called West Roxbury. We went out to the home. Home was in good condition. So you might think automatically, okay, going to be a retail house, going to be a listing. We met with the seller. She said, I've lived in the house for 40 years. The most important thing to me is I want to move near my daughter who lives south of the city, 30 miles south of the city. And I want to be very picky about where I go. She said, I want to take my time. And that might mean it takes me 2 months. That might mean it takes me a year. She said, I'm going. I promised my daughter I want to be there, but I don't want to rush into anything and make a bad decision. So in this case, the seller is telling us they don't need to sell fast, but they want to sell when they want to sell. She wanting us to be ready the moment that she found a place, which happened to be 8 months later. She called us. Hey, finally found it. I'm ready to go. I want you to buy my house in 30 days.